Hey there, word nerds.
Word nerds.
You ready?
I'm ready.
It's time for another deep dive into some seriously cool modern English.
Okay.
Today, we're going to be cracking the code on slang and idioms.
Cracking the code. I like that.
Right, those expressions that just inject personality and punch into, everyday conversations.
It's so true. It's like
Right.
you unlock these hidden meanings and you can really see how language is evolving.
Exactly. And today, we're going to be tackling a few terms you've probably heard buzzing around.
Yeah, like woke.
Woke,
Turn down.
barmy,
Oh,
spill the tea.
okay.
Get ready for some surprising origin stories and maybe even a few facepalm moments.
Oh, yeah.
If you've ever misused these gems yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I think we've all had a few slang mishaps.
For sure.
We'd rather forget.
Totally.
But honestly,
Yeah.
those blunders can actually be great learning experiences.
That's so true.
They highlight how nuanced and context-dependent slang can be.
Absolutely. And speaking of nuanced, let's start with a word that has sparked endless debates and think pieces.
Oh, which one?
Woke.
Woke, yeah.
I feel like everyone throws this word around, but the meaning seems to keep shifting.
It's true. It has become one of those buzzwords that can be both powerful and problematic.
Right.
At its core, it's about being aware of social injustice,
Uh-huh.
particularly those rooted in systemic racism and discrimination.
Right.
But it's also become a bit of a linguistic chameleon,
Okay.
adapting to different contexts and sometimes losing its original potency.
So more than just knowing about issues, it's about being actively engaged in fighting them.
Exactly. It's about understanding that these issues are deeply embedded in our systems and institutions.
Right.
And that simply being informed isn't enough.
Yeah.
It calls for action, for challenging the status quo and working towards meaningful change.
It's fascinating how woke went from a relatively niche term in the Black community to a mainstream phenomenon.
Uh-huh.
I remember hearing stay woke
Yeah.
as this call to action,
Yeah.
especially in the wake of events like the Ferguson protests back in 2014.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
It's a great example of how language can reflect social movements and cultural shifts.
Absolutely.
The rise of woke coincided with a growing awareness of systemic racism and police brutality.
Uh-huh.
Fueled by social media and the Black Lives Matter movement,
Yeah.
it became a rallying cry, a way to signal solidarity and a commitment to fighting for justice.
It's like language itself became a form of protest, giving a voice to a collective desire for change.
Absolutely.
But I also wonder if its mainstream adoption has diluted its impact in some ways.
That's a really valid point.
Mhm.
As woke entered the mainstream, it became subject to appropriation and misinterpretation.
Right.
Some argue that it's been co-opted by corporations and politicians as a form of performative allyship, rather than genuine commitment to dismantling oppressive systems. It's a reminder that even the most well-intentioned language can be misused and lose its original meaning.
It's like that saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Exactly.
Sometimes words can be weaponized,
Yes.
even those originally meant to inspire positive change.
Absolutely. Which is why it's crucial to be critical consumers of language.
Right.
To understand the historical and social context in which words are used,
Yeah.
and to be mindful of our own intentions when we use them.
So listener, next time you hear woke,
Woke.
think about its journey,
Yeah.
its roots in Black activism, its rise as a call for social justice, and its potential for both empowerment and misuse.
And remember, true allyship goes beyond buzzwords. It's about sustained action,
Right.
challenging our own biases,
Yeah.
and working towards a more just and equitable world for everyone.
Okay. On a slightly lighter note,
Okay.
let's move on to a phrase that might save you from some awkward situations. Ooh. Turn down.
Turn down.
We've all been there, that moment where you need to politely decline an invitation or an offer.
The art of saying no gracefully.
Yes.
Turn down is a classic example of a phrasal verb where a simple verb like turn gets paired with a preposition like down to create a whole new meaning.
It's like those building blocks we had as kids.
What?
Combine a few simple pieces and you can create something totally different.
Yeah.
And in this case, turn down becomes this elegant way of saying thanks, but no thanks.
It's so concise and versatile.
Yeah.
Think about it. You can turn down a job offer,
Yep.
a date, A second helping of dessert?
Yes.
It's all about politely declining something.
And that visual of literally turning something down, like
Yeah.
the volume on a radio, it just clicks.
Uh-huh.
But I have to confess, I once completely botched this phrase.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh.
I was like a nervous college student interviewing for an internship. And when the interviewer asked if I had any questions, I blurted out, "Nope, I think I'll turn this internship down."
Oh.
I meant to say, I was good, no more questions.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Needless to say, I didn't get the internship.
Oh, that's definitely a case of slang gone wrong.
Yeah.
But hey, it happens to the best of us.
Oh, yeah.
It just goes to show that even with seemingly straightforward phrases, context and delivery are everything.
It was a brutal lesson in the importance of choosing your words carefully, especially in formal settings. Now, speaking of saying things in a slightly roundabout way, let's hop across the pond for our next word. Barmy. This one always makes me chuckle because it sounds so quintessentially British,
Oh, yeah.
like something you'd hear in a Monty Python skit.
Barmy is a delightful word, isn't it?
Yes.
It's that perfect blend of eccentric and slightly madcap, delivered with a wink and a smile.
It's like you can practically hear the British accent when you say it. So if we're translating this for our American listeners, is barmy basically the equivalent of saying someone's a little kooky?
That's a pretty good approximation. But barmy carries a lighter, more whimsical connotation.
Okay.
It's not about being outright crazy,
Right.
but rather having a touch of the absurd,
Mm-hmm.
a charming quirkiness that makes someone stand out from the crowd.
So instead of saying someone's lost their marbles, you'd say they've gone a bit barmy.
Exactly.
I love that. It's like the difference between saying someone's off their rocker versus having a twinkle in their eye.
Precisely. It's that playful suggestion that someone's ideas are a bit bubbly and unconventional,
Right.
like a glass of champagne's gone to their head.
Speaking of bubbly, the origin of barmy is quite unexpected. I read that it's connected to beer.
It is.
Really?
Barmy actually stems from the word barm, which refers to the froth or yeast that forms on top of fermenting beer. Imagine that frothy, slightly chaotic layer. It's a perfect metaphor for those who have a touch of the barmy about them.
It's like their thoughts are as effervescent and unpredictable as a freshly poured pint.
Precisely.
That makes so much sense. I'll never look at a foamy beer the same way again.
I think that's the beauty of etymology. It reveals these unexpected connections between words and ideas, adding layers of meaning to our everyday language.
It's like uncovering a secret code, isn't it? And speaking of codes, I feel like mastering slang is kind of like cracking a secret code, especially when it comes to understanding different cultures and communities.
You're absolutely right.
Huh.
Slang is inherently tied to identity and belonging. It's a way for groups to communicate more efficiently, share inside jokes, and signal their membership in a particular tribe.
Yeah.
Think about surfers,
Yeah.
gamers,
Uh-huh.
musicians.
Yeah.
They all have their own unique slang that would sound completely foreign to outsiders.
It's like having a secret handshake, only with words. But sometimes those secret handshakes go viral and suddenly everyone's trying to do them even if they don't quite understand the meaning behind it.
That's the tricky thing about slang. It's constantly evolving and crossing over between subcultures and mainstream use.
Ow!
Social media plays a huge role in this,
Right.
accelerating the spread of slang like wildfire.
Absolutely.
A catchy phrase or hashtag can go from niche to ubiquitous practically overnight.
It's like watching a linguistic time-lapse video, seeing how words morph and adapt as they jump from online communities to real-world conversations. And sometimes those adaptations can get a little lost in translation, right?
Absolutely. Context is crucial when it comes to slang. A word or phrase that's perfectly acceptable in one setting might be completely inappropriate or even offensive in another.
Right.
It's like wearing a swimsuit to a board meeting.
Yeah.
It's all about reading the room and understanding the unspoken rules of communication.
So, listener, how do you navigate this slippery slope of slang without ending up in a linguistic faux pas? Pay attention. Listen to how people are using slang in different contexts. Observe the nuances, and don't be afraid to ask questions if you're unsure. It's better to seek clarification than to accidentally drop a barmy bomb in the wrong crowd.
And remember, language is a living, breathing thing. New slang is constantly being coined,
Uh-huh.
while older terms fade into obscurity.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace the ever-changing landscape of language, stay curious, and have fun experimenting with new expressions.
It's like updating your wardrobe. You wouldn't want to be caught wearing linguistic bell-bottoms in the age of skinny jeans.
Now, our final phrase for today is one that's become a social media sensation: spill the tea.
Oh, yeah.
This is all about the delicious anticipation of juicy gossip or a scandalous revelation.
It's like the linguistic equivalent of leaning in with wide eyes and whispering, "Tell me everything," but why tea?
Hmm.
It seems so civilized for such a potentially messy topic.
It is a fascinating contrast, isn't it?
Yeah.
The origin of spill the tea is believed to be rooted in black drag culture, where